Full Ahead, the podcast about ships and shipping, with Alistair Eagles and Nigel Thompson.
Well, hello and welcome to this latest edition of Full Ahead, the podcast about ships and shipping. I'm Nigel Thompson.
And I'm Alistair Eagles, and we're back in the shed. It's rather sunny, it's rather warm. The hot weather has made it this far north, so we've got the doors open, so you might hear some odd tweets of local birds.
Welcome, it's good to have you there. And Alistair, it's great to hear, isn't it, that we're popular in quite a few countries now?
25 countries and counting, lots of people listening, lots of interest in the most recent episode. So yeah, it's great to see the podcast going from strength to strength.
Must give a shout out to Rob Wicks. Rob's a great photographer, by the way. I remember that he took some fantastic shots of Andy Bradbury climbing up the side of one of those ships off Heysham on the ferries. And he sent a very kind note, which I'll just share. I hope he doesn't mind, but he said, just listen to the latest podcast with Andy Bradbury, the pilot, discussing pilotage. Another interesting topic, he says, and he just wanted to add, he did a cruise for the first time last year. He went to a P&O fly cruise around the Canaries and Madeira. I think he enjoyed it. He might well do it again. Anyway, he says, you're keeping me entertained whilst I tip/load currently a 40-foot box of water to a cash and carry in Blackburn. I think he's living the dream, isn't he?
It sounds great, yeah. You kind of forget water. It's a strange commodity to transport, but I guess we drink lots of it. But yeah, no, great to hear. And thanks for everyone who is listening and sharing these episodes. And we hope to share lots more interesting stories like Andy the pilot in the coming months.
Now, we've both been on our travels since last we spoke, and I've got to say I've had quite a few experiences which I'll maybe share. In fact, you can hear a little bit about later in the podcast. In fact, I'll share a little interview I did with the owner of a ferry with a difference in Suffolk.
Keep your line. Go in a straight line and be stubborn. That's the only way. Yeah, there are the rules of the road, but yeah, just keep going. And avoid the collision. That's because if there is a race going through and there are 30 boats in it or 40, or all these sailors, usually they are quite inexperienced. So if you start zigzagging, things go really get nervous. So just choose one and go stern and keep going.
Yeah, you'll hear from Chris a little later on. Fascinating story and a bit of a surprise about the actual history of the vessel that we recorded an interview on as well. But we'll share that a little later on. And you've been around, haven't you? Been north of the border.
Yep, I jumped on my bike, do like a bit of cycling, jumped on my bike and headed up from where we are here up to Mallaig in northwest Scotland. Quite a lot of cycling, but also 4 ferries involved in the journey. So on and off the Isle of Arran, on and off the Isle of Mull. CalMac did me proud, and great to see some wonderful bits of Scotland. Not too many midges, lots of maritime interest, and then a rather slow and rather long train journey back on the final day. But yeah, great trip.
And CalMac as well, but did you have a chance to see or hear about the new ferries that are coming into commission soon?
I think I was kind of hit by the CalMac curse a little bit. They've got, as you know, an ageing fleet up in Scotland, building some new ships, some out in Turkey and some in Scotland. The Scottish ones, shall we say, have been rather slow in production, but the first one, Loch Seaforth, is out. It's operating, doing well by all accounts, but they juggled the ships round. I purposely booked on that one and ended up on a different one, but I shall go back and have a ride another day. But they're doing well, and nice trips, and some great little routes up there.
Excellent stuff. Well, fingers crossed we can perhaps go and do a feature on CalMac. It's been years since I went across to, I think it was Mull, but also out to the small isles and the cruise from Mallaig as well, which was a fantastic experience. It's like a sort of seagoing bus, isn't it? Sending passengers and all kinds of things, vitals that are needed for the islands to keep them going, basically. So it'd be good to perhaps have a look in more detail about what they do and the essential role that they play.
Yeah, lifeline services up there. You know, the islands need those ferries for their goods, for their people transportation, but it's very hard to make those routes commercially work, so that's why they get a big subsidy from the Scottish Government to keep those lifeline services operational.
Your look inside the world of ships and shipping. This is Full Ahead.
So the aim of Full Ahead is to shine a spotlight on those jobs which perhaps don't get the attention they maybe deserve. As I mentioned earlier, I was in Suffolk a few weeks ago. Cracking time, great part of the world, very busy part of the world when it comes to ships and shipping. Now, maybe that might be a surprise to you is that one of the ships that is used by many people, from walkers to cyclists, has to dodge its way around these massive container ships. And we'll talk more perhaps about Felixstowe a little later on. But the interview I recorded with Zemann. Chris is a chap who well, he's a fascinating character. He came from Austria, originates there. He came to the UK. He liked the idea of running a short, small ferry service. And as the phrase goes, he liked it so much he bought the company. So he now operates between Felixstowe, Harwich, and also Shotley as well. A fantastic little craft which I had the pleasure of going on recently. Let's hear from Chris now. Just tell us about the boat, so about the service. I didn't know anything about it, but this distinctive yellow craft that plies across one of the busiest harbours in the UK. I mean, it's well thought of, it's well supported. I've seen on the Facebook page you've got lots of people who kind of follow you. But I understand that you're quite a recent owner and operator of a boat.
Yeah, so I bought the whole business 11 years ago, and then naively, I didn't know. So naively, I was actually buying it, and it was not going too well. It was working, but we turned it around. First, we got a bigger vessel, which is the current one. It's an ex-lifeboat from the SS Canberra.
Which is a story in itself, isn't it? How on earth does a former lifeboat from a cruise line, the Canberra, as you say, become used as a foot passenger ferry in Suffolk? Yeah,
it makes sense because if you want more than 12 passengers in the UK, you need a specific license. It needs to be heel tested. It needs to be a passenger vessel, and that is determined on the day the vessel is being built to a certain standard, and the lifeboat has that. It is built to that sort of standard. So there is actually another vessel in the UK. I'm not sure if it's still operational. I think they've upgraded now. But this one was lifeboat number 24. It runs as a 58 passenger ferry at the moment.
And when you bought this service, when you took over the business, was this the ferry that was on service, or did you acquire this as well afterwards?
I did acquire the business with a landing craft. So it was from the Mr. Dyson, there from the vacuum cleaners. I think he had a university project where he designed a fast carrying vessel, which was that landing craft, or one of them. But that was only for 12 passengers, and it was in very bad condition. It was really bad. So I looked out for another one, and here we go. That's that one.
This is absolutely perfect. So I've just come across from Felixstowe, and the step on the front, which comes down to the shingle beach there, is ideal, isn't it? In minutes you can have people off, have people on board, and turn around and off you go. And that's a unique, I imagine, contraption.
That is very unique. I mean, we designed that. We sat at the drawing board, not knowing where to start and how to finish it. But the outcome is this, and it's brilliant. It has 10, 12 steps up, then a platform, 4 steps down, and then a gangway we can drop with an electronic button. So it's really useful.
People need to tell that obviously not got a UK accent. You're Austrian. Is the story then you were just on holiday in the UK? You saw the service. You saw that there's an opportunity here, and it was up for sale. And you just, as they say, liked it so much you bought the company.
Nearly. So, I mean, my wife is British. We were on holiday one day in the UK before we moved here, and I saw another ferry, and I watched the ferry operator, and I thought, I would like to work on the water again. So when we then finally moved to the UK, which was 3 or 4 years later, by chance I saw the ferry for sale, and I thought, here we go, that's my opportunity. And my family asked me, who will row the boat? So it was no, it has an engine. So I bought more or less a failing business. It wasn't really doing well, it was just ticking over. Yeah. But I thought, I love it, and let's make something out of it. And we have increased the service times, which was only every 2 hours. Now it's every hour. We have increased the capacity from 12 passengers to 58. And I was told it will never work, and we've never done it like this. But here we go. It does work. We have on busy days 400 to 600 passengers going one way. So it does. It has changed.
just describe the route, because I came across from Felixstowe. It's actually a triangular route, isn't it? Is it Shotley as well?
Yes. So it's Harwich to Shotley, back to Harwich, then to Felixstowe, and always back to Harwich, and that goes all day long. So we do lots of passengers. They sit on board for an hour, just go around the harbour, jump off again on the same spot they started. Others, they use it as a ferry. They come on board, go back again. So there is these both options really.
Have you got regular kind of users? People use it to commute to and from work or school or something like that?
We don't have really commuters, if I'm honest, because we start at 9:50 till 16:30. So it's really from 9 till 5. It's a leisure business. We do have some commuters, but it's a bit late and a bit early where we finish. We are currently talking to an organisation which is called Freeport East, and they are interested in us providing an all year round ferry. But that is definitely something where we need help from the government. That's an infrastructure project, and that would be from 6 in the morning till 8 in the evening.
Wow.
So it's shift work, 365 days.
Yeah, and as it is now, do you work? So is it seasonal the service?
It's seasonal. April till October.
Yeah.
That's what this boat is licensed for.
Yeah.
In the winter, we can only take 12 passengers, and also you see there is a cabin, but it is more or less open. There would be too much draft, and it would be quite cold on board.
I think you employ crew as well. So I mean, obviously you're an employer as well as a service provider. You do both things.
Yeah, we have we have 3 skippers at the moment. One of them is full time, the other ones are part time. We have 4 crew members, they're all part time. So that's now the peak of the team, and then towards the end of the season it reduces. The crew members are mainly young, so they will go back to college. So it's more summer job. And then we have also seal watching trips. So we go from Harwich to Harmford Water. We show the seals, which is another amazing 2-hour trip.
Yeah. That's amazing. And the reason I contacted you is I saw the fact that obviously Harwich is a busy port, but so too obviously just on my shoulder here, Felixstowe. I mean, you're in the middle of it. You're kind of quite a small craft dodging these massive, container carrying boats. Saw one come in yesterday, which is I think being unloaded as we speak. How do you kind of make sure that everything is kept separate? I mean, you must have had incidents where you got to just stay away from the boats because the pull and their influence is so great, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, there is lots of traffic going on. We have to go straight across, so we are always in between. But because they are such big vessels, it's not hundreds. Yeah. It's only a few really. And then we are in constant contact with VTS, so that's the Vessel Traffic Service here in Harwich Harbour. So they would tell us if it's something imminent coming in. But overall, our skippers are experienced. They have lots of training, and before they go by themselves, they really understand and know what the movements are.
You mentioned seals. We obviously wildlife. People like going on boats just look at seals and birds, of course, as well. Have you had any stories you can share with us about they've been followed by pods of dolphins or anything else that's coming? Is it a good wildlife area for harbour here?
In the harbour there is not so much wildlife. If you are here every day as a skipper, then definitely you can see the odd seal, you can see the odd maybe porpoise. But we are going to Harmford Water, that's 7 miles away from where we start. There's a colony there, so there is always like 30, 60, maybe 120 seals. They're on the mud, they're in the water, they have their pups at the moment, so it's brilliant. Yeah. And in the winter there is hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of birds there. So they migrate from the North Pole and have an over wintering ground here. Wow. So it's definitely a wildlife heaven.
Yeah. What about the weather conditions? I don't know what is the tidal range in this part of the country where I'm from. It is quite huge. It's about sort of several metres. But is it that great here?
Yes, I mean the tide goes on some days 4.5 meters difference. Wow. So the tidal effect is severe. So especially if you have the wind and the tide all at the same in the opposite direction. We have Harwich, which affects us with northwest wind badly. Often, or not so, if northwest wind is above like 25 knots or so, they close the whole pontoons and then we can't operate. And then southwest wind affects us on the way to Felixstowe. But again, we've learned to deal with it. And then you have to possibly do a little zigzag and just face the waves and then get them astern again. She's a lifeboat, and she absolutely does not mind waves from astern,
Yeah.
which is normally the dangerous
Yeah,
wave
absolutely.
direction.
Yeah.
But this boat is just brilliant with that.
It's pretty stable. What about the river as well? You got the River Orwell coming, feeding into it. Does that influence the currents and tides as well?
Definitely, the Orwell and the Stour, they both meet on the corner there where Harwich Harbour is. So there is sometimes like a meter and a half, even 2 meter tidal wave.
Wow.
So we are quite exposed here.
Yeah. You must have some amazing sights. I'm guessing things like sort of nutrients and things going downstream, meeting the fresh water of the sea, and sunrise and sunsets. You must have seen some fantastic sights and views, I imagine, during the time you've been here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know so much about that, but in all honesty, there's definitely a lot going on. And if you look at the line fishing, there are loads of people that go line fishing here, so there's definitely lots of fish around as well.
Yeah, there's lots of history here. There's the old lightships there, and there's all these kind of historic East Coast sailing barks as well.
Yeah.
So there's quite a variety of shipping, not just the massive container ships we've been talking about.
Yeah, there is. There's a sailing school today. We can see there are loads of them in. They have like 4 boats at the same time in. Then you also have, as you say, the LV-18, which is the last manned lightship. It's a little museum here alongside, and on some days there are hundreds of sailing boats coming out the river, going out to sea, and then and we have to go through this field, and then in the afternoon they'll come back again. There was a barge race on the other day, so from I think it was the Pin Mill barge race. That was brilliant. So there's loads of sailing going on, and it's brilliant for sailing. You have space, you have a lot to see. And really good wind here. So.
Yeah, but isn't it tricky trying to sort of navigate, because you're trying to run a service as well? People are having fun, having a great time, I'm sure, but you're trying to keep to a timetable and as I say, be a service. So is it quite a challenge to make sure you can kind of do zigzag through and keep to time?
Keep your line. Go in a straight line and be stubborn. That's the only way. Yeah, there are the rules of the road, but just keep going. And avoid the collision. That's because if there is a race going through and there are 30 boats in it or 40, or all these sailors, usually they are quite inexperienced. So if you start zigzagging, things get nervous. So just choose one and go astern and keep going. And Harwich Haven Authority is brilliant. They're on board. They're really helpful. We have our berth here. They keep it free for us. It's just for the ferry. So they're really helpful for us to be able to keep a timetable like this going. Yeah. And I think we are 99% of the time we are on time. So there's definitely, we're really working hard to be reliable and depart on time. So if somebody is 10 seconds late, unfortunately, the ferry is gone.
There's a couple of cyclists coming off as I was coming on this morning. So obviously I've been doing the kind of round the coast kind of bike ride. You must be a godsend for people like that and walkers as well, because it cuts off a heck of an alternative route. You have to get the bus, I think, to Ipswich and come back down the coast. I mean, you must shave hours off people's journeys.
Yeah, and the detour is not as fun either. So it's we're part of the cycle route here, 51, and it's definitely helpful. There were a lot more people from Holland, but there was pre-Brexit and then Corona. So there were loads of reasons why these dropped in numbers. It's slowly coming back now after so many years, but overall, that is definitely the choice to get along the coast. And there are four foot ferries in Suffolk. So there are 3 more after us, but they're really a stone throw across. Not like us. We have 15 minutes. And the other route to Shotley 7 minutes, so it's a proper crossing.
I was saying, it feels open water as well. It doesn't feel like it's just from one bank to another. You feel like you're crossing an inland sea almost. It does feel like a proper service. I was just wondering, I read before I met you today about an incident you had a couple of years ago with a storm that unfortunately took this craft to almost a bad end. I think it was partially submerged and damaged as well. Just tell us what happened with that.
So we are here alongside where we are right now on Halfpenny Pier, and as I mentioned, northwest wind is bad for us here. So we put chains on and ropes and secured it properly, put the fenders out and everything. But the wind went up to I think 70 knots, 73 knots. The whole water in the harbour started to take off. It was actually interesting to see, but it was terrible. And then the waves were so big that the whole ferry got lifted onto the pontoon, and sat on the bollards, which made a hole on the outside hull. It fell in again, and this went on for hours, so the whole outside was damaged. And then the fire extinguishers on the inside smashed against the wall and damaged the inside wall. So the boat started to fill up with water, and then the weight of that just ripped everything off. So it broke loose. It felt like that's the end. It was really hard to watch, but we had no other option to go. To go anywhere to safety, and it also came by surprise because the forecast was 50 knots, so we thought we'd get away with it. But 70 is another ball game. And so it was destroyed. It was really out of action. We stopped service, but then we decided, because it's such a crucial bespoke vessel really for that service, because as you mentioned, in Felixstowe we go to the beach, so we can't have much draft. So we decided to fix it. So we got some amazing kind donations from the locals. So somebody set up a GoFundMe page, and there was a lot of money involved in that. And then the payout from the insurance, which was a total write-off, plus money from us. And then we managed to put it all back again.
Getting that GoFundMe. I mean, I read that. I was surprised. But it just shows you perhaps the love that people have for this service, that they actually wanted to donate to make sure it carries on going. Were you surprised as well?
I was very surprised. I mean, the person who mentioned let's do a GoFundMe, I was like, yeah, why would I do this? I have other worries now because it's a waste of time. But it was a huge amount of money. It was very significant. I mean, we needed 400 kilos of fiberglass matting. On the outside and on the hull. So there was, plus all the epoxy. So there was a lot. There was a seriously big damage. The engine, the gearbox, the windows, everything was damaged. And if the boat would be easy replaceable, I would have done it. It would have been cheaper to buy another second-hand vessel than fixing it. But we decided to fix it, and I think it was a good decision. And now also we got permission to lay our own moorings from the local authority. So if anything happens now, we put the vessel on the mooring and it just bounces around. Job done.
Perfect.
It's safe.
But a close call by the sounds of it. It just sounded like it was
close.
Yeah.
Without the help from the GoFundMe, we would not have made it. So they made all the difference.
Good stuff. Yeah. And what about the future then? Are you looking towards the future with sort of optimism? Are you happy that you've got a good thing, a good business model, people are supporting it, it's going to grow, do you think? Yeah,
definitely. I would say I am positive about it. It's a nice thing to do. Some skippers of ours, they tell us it doesn't feel like going to work. So it's like, it's a nice thing to do. The passengers on board are happy. They want a nice day out. So it's a very positive environment to be in. So all of this is really speaks for it. And the conversations we have about an all-year-round ferry, which would require a different vessel. But I think after now 10 or 11 years, I think it is time to think and move on and get to the next level. And an all-year-round service from 6 in the morning till 8 in the evening, I think is the right thing to connect these three communities, which are so close but so far away from each other.
Wow, that was such an interesting discussion. I really enjoyed that. And when we were talking about ferries at the start, I was thinking big things, and obviously, this is a much smaller craft, but great to hear about his future plans for the service as well and what he'd like to do going forward. And, just these little services that exist and work and transport people around and put a smile on people's faces. Great to hear, and just such a kind of lovely story, wasn't it?
Yeah, Chris very kindly sort of shared a few kind of thoughts and just insight into what it's like operating a business in a very busy part of the world. And don't forget Harwich. I mean, there's a service, as you know, from Harwich to the Hook of Holland, and you've got these massive container ships as well. And Chris and his crew kind of dodging in between, as he said in the interview, he has to just hold his course and be aware of what's going on. But he also told me the amount of money that's spent dredging to make sure that these massive ships can keep coming in. You're talking like millions of pounds every year. Lots of work going on. In fact, when we were there, they were dredging, and I'll share some pictures, not just of that, but also, as I say, I was blown away by the size of these massive container ships.
I mean, you've got literally the biggest container ships in the world coming into Felixstowe, and then you've got a guy in an old lifeboat transporting people in between it all, and it's crazy when you think about it. But he obviously does it well. He does it safely, and yeah, everyone keeps out of each other's way. And but yeah, just a really nice thing to hear. But I think I'd be a bit scared, kind of navigating around with all those massive container ships.
I think you've got to watch out what's coming. He was saying the port authority there in Harwich, very very aware and very sensitive that he provides a service. Needs hope, as you heard in the interviews, to try and expand that for the future as well. But as I say, going back to Felixstowe, I hadn't appreciated. I mean, I've seen Liverpool, for example, the massive container port there, and you've got these fantastic sized gantry cranes. It's probably double the size, I would say, at Felixstowe. And I think I read somewhere 40% of everything that comes into the UK comes through that port.
Yeah, it's that kind of level there in Southampton, and yeah, just huge amounts of stuff coming in. 80-90% of what we have in the UK comes on a ship, comes across the sea from somewhere, and huge amount into that one port. Yeah, it's incredible to think about. And
the other thing, we actually stayed in Ipswich, which itself is a thriving port. I didn't realise how busy it was until we booked accommodation on the marina, and we discovered at first hand that ships arrive at all times of the day and night, as you probably know. And the ship that came in while we were there had come across from Sweden with a big load of wood, literally, and it was there and worked and off out within 2 days. And then we could see further down the River Orwell as well that there's a big kind of terminal that deals with aggregates. So you had sand coming from wherever, and this constant kind of churn which quietly goes on we don't know about.
No, it's easy to forget just how many ports there are around the coast, how many different things and different commodities they deal in, and also how many little boat services exist, just like Zemann, across all the river estuaries, down in Cornwall, all over the place, and the whole kind of maritime world going on there that we don't often think about. And that's one of the reasons we're doing the Full Ahead podcast, to help people awareness and to hear these great stories from great people.
The people and their stories. This is Full Ahead, the podcast about ships and shipping.
Now it's time for more Maritime Matters, the part of Full Ahead when we try and get answers to the kind of questions people like me are afraid to ask. So last time we spoke about the terminology from ships and shipping has become part of common language. I've got to say, people really love this part of the podcast, Alistair, because we learn something. Listeners learn it as well.
Every day is a school day, as they say. And this one is a new one for me. But long shot, if we're taking a long shot, and we all know the meaning of that. We all know it's you're taking a kind of risk. You're taking it might not happen, it might not come off. And that comes from the maritime world. So in the early days of ships' guns tended to be pretty inaccurate. And the inaccuracy got worse the further you are away from the target. So if you were taking a long shot and you actually hit the target, that was considered to be quite a surprising thing.
And what about this tide over? First of all, don't confuse with tide as in T-I-E-D. This is T-I-D-E, tide over. The phrase has its origins, not surprisingly, in seafaring. It's when there was no wind to fill the sails. So sailors would have to basically just wait for the tide to change or wait for the wind to return. So they would effectively just tide over. So when if you're tiding, this will tide you over. That's where that comes from.
So, looking ahead, horizon scanning, what's coming up in the maritime world?
Speaking as we're recording this, enjoying wonderful sunshine. It's been quite a dry season so far, dry summer across parts of the UK, but certainly parts of Europe as well. Low water levels have caused an increase in shipping costs across Europe's rivers because of the heat wave. Let me explain a bit more. Apparently the Rhine is at quite a low level, which means that ships which would normally go heavily laden and fully laden can't now go because it's too shallow. So they're having to take just a portion of their kind of cargoes. Otherwise, they'd run aground.
You forget in Europe just the amount of transport that happens on the river network. I was actually on the Rhine earlier this summer camping, and the amount of traffic going up and down, pretty incredible, and stuff that you wouldn't expect, car transporters, containers, just really, really busy. But then in the campsite kind of office, there was a picture from exactly a year ago when the campsite was completely flooded. Wow. So in other news, we've seen Stena Line announce that they're discontinuing their link between Rosslare in Ireland and Cherbourg in France. Last departure is scheduled for the end of the summer, at the end of September. I think it's a strategic review by the company, looking at allocating their resources differently. The ship that was running on that route was relatively old, I think the oldest one in their fleet. So, yeah, sad to see a route going. But, a lot of routes really benefited post-Brexit. So post-Brexit, traffic, rather than going directly from Ireland across the UK to the continent, kind of bypassed the UK, and the routes directly from Ireland to the continent saw a real boom. as people have kind of sorted out their paperwork, got more used to it, there's less traffic doing that kind of diversion now. So maybe that was behind it. Passenger numbers may be difficult in the wintertime. But yeah, sad to see a route closing, but equally Steno Line are investing a huge amount of money in their services, a recent investment in the terminals of Liverpool and Belfast, and also a brand new ship due in September. So a brand new ship for the Irish Sea is on its way, and we're going to go and have a look at that when it arrives, Nigel.
Well, thanks very much. It's been good to catch up, and I hope you enjoyed our little feature as well about the ferries across the harbour at Felixstowe. Well worth seeing, by the way. A little yellow craft. I'll put some pictures on our social media channels and a little video as well that Chris kindly made for us, so we'll share that very shortly.
Yeah, and thanks for listening. It's great to have so many listeners from so many countries listening to Full Ahead. We've got some really exciting guests lined up. Can't tell you who they are just yet, but there's going to be some really great episodes coming up, and we're going to be out and about on our travels a bit and seeing some really interesting things, I think, Nigel. So keep listening, keep sharing, and keep in touch.
Get in touch. Find us on social media or email nigel.thompson@journalist.com.